Our next Trailblazer is being honored in 3 equal parts. First, the progenitor, Sesame Street, celebrating its 53rd season. Enough said. The creation, a very cute 7-year-old named Ji-young, who is Korean American and lives on Sesame Street. Third, the animator. Kathleen Kim is the puppeteer who brings Ji-young to life and infuses her spirit and informs how she is on Sesame Street. Kathleen Kim.
So before I get into my speech, fun story, when Vivian Lee reached out to me to talk to me about this event, I was like, I need to send you this picture because in 11? Me and my husband dressed up as Pat Kiernan and Vivian Lee for Halloween with like New York 1 mic cubes and everything. So getting introduced by Vivian Lee is like a very big deal and I'm very excited about it. Hi, I'm Kathleen Kim. I have something in common with Councilman Linda Lee because I am also feeling weird up here because puppeteers are used to being very hidden, so this is bizarre for me. But I am so proud to be here representing Sesame Street to accept the Trailblazer Award on their behalf for the furtherment of the Korean American voice via Ji-young, a 7-year-old spunky rock and roll Korean American kid who I have the great honor of getting to perform. So when people find out that I'm a Sesame Street puppeteer, inevitably there are 2 most commonly asked questions. Number 1, so do you guys also do the voices? Yes. I don't. The second question that they ask is, how does one become a Sesame Street puppeteer? This is an excellent question. And what you have to understand is there's 2 different paths to becoming a Sesame Street Muppeteer. The first is very straight, and it starts when a young nerd at a tender age decides, this is where I need to be. And so he works really hard until he gets to his goal. I do not use the pronoun he by accident here, by the way. The second path does not even know that this is a goal. And so there are detours and side tracks, and it takes a little longer, there's a lot more self-doubt involved. But eventually, somehow, you end up at this amazing place that just feels incredibly right, and you feel so lucky to be there. That's my path. And I didn't choose, oh, thank you. Now, I didn't choose the longer path because I wasn't obsessed with Sesame Street or because I didn't shut your phones off. I'm just kidding. I was going for the laugh, you're fine. Now, I did not choose the longer, windier path because I didn't love Sesame Street or because I didn't love the Muppets, because both were true. You know what I really loved was like, anytime you could see the behind the scenes, like what you guys saw in the video of like Jim Henson and his crew, the pictures and the clips, because you see like all the puppets and all the fun stuff happening here and then all the magic happening below the frame was like my favorite. But it was all a bunch of white dudes. I didn't see anybody who looked like me doing what I get to do now. But I'm here and it's great, and Sesame is always deepening the diversity bench, both below the frame with our puppeteers and performers, and behind the camera as well. In fact, we introduced this year not only the first, but the first 3 Black female puppeteers this season, Jamaica, Megan, and Tori, which is wonderful. It only took 53 seasons to get to this point, but Sesame is always evolving, and the truth is that from its inception, its roots are embedded in racial justice, diversity, inclusion. You can see it in the first season, starting in 1969. We had a fully racially integrated cast, which was revolutionary at the time. We had bilingual characters, Maria and Luis. Children's television workshops started with the mission of bringing educational equity to Black communities and other inner city communities. Because they've always known that the more kids who are taking in media see people who look like them on TV, the more they feel like they belong. One of my first memories of watching Sesame Street was this song that played over a video of 2 little girls playing with a dollhouse. The song was like, 1, 2, 2 little dolls, 1, 2, 2 little chairs. Anybody? 2 little dolls, 2 little chairs, 2 little girls in a little dollhouse. So for maybe the older folks, you might have gotten a little bit of a core memory unlocking. No, whatever. So the two girls, one was blonde, white. The other girl was Asian. And I remember as a 5-year-old Kathy watching that Asian girl on TV, and I actually thought to myself, that white girl looks really Asian. That's so weird. I'm not even kidding. And as ridiculous as that sounds, that's how starved for representation I was in the 80s. That 5-year-old Kathy thought it was more plausible that a white girl just weirdly looked very Asian than Sesame Street actually putting an Asian kid on television. And the difference between a kid seeing someone who looks like themselves on TV is a difference between them feeling like there's a world where they have a place outside their own living room, outside their own screens, that they belong, and that really, really matters. And now we have Ji-young, and she feels like a gift. She is a Muppet on a very American institution that we all grew up watching. And it's something that we as Asian Americans, we weren't waiting for it. We weren't expecting it. We didn't even know to ask for it because we didn't think it was possible. We're so used to being on the outside, in the background. We're so used to being outside even the conversation of race in America. We've just been sort of quietly working in service, building businesses, making money for other people, being the model minority. In movies and film, we're the sidekick, we're the comic relief, we're the exotic sexual object of desire or the esoteric, like, creepy villain. You know, we are in the background, we're quiet, we're unobtrusive, or we are a caricature. And Ji-young is none of those things. She is front and center, she's loud and proud, and most importantly to me, and I hope it comes across, is that she is an individual. She reps her Korean heritage, but she does not represent all Korean Americans. I feel like there was a time, maybe it still is true, where we felt like there was only room for one Asian character on TV or one Asian sitcom, the one Asian female chef, like, okay, we've got that filled, so we're good, you know, like we got the one Asian politician, any more than that is too much, you know? And so it feels like when we do have that opportunity, it's like there was maybe this pressure to feel like we had to tell all of our collective narrative all at once, like while we had this chance. But that's not the case anymore. Today, we feel like there's room for all of us to tell our specific stories, that we could be together as a Korean American community, but we can also tell our individual perspectives. And that's how we move away from like the monolithic stereotypes, by being our true selves, by lifting each other up like Korean American story does, and by paving the way for the next generation. My date tonight is Janet Kim. She's over there at table 8. She is the producer for the Sesame API special, See Us Coming Together. She's a ferocious producer director if anybody's looking to hire. And she made sure that at every step of the way in the development of both Ji-young as a character and the puppet, the special, that there was a Korean person at the helm in every single room, even when she sometimes wasn't invited. But it was important to us that there was authenticity, like at every step of the way. So this past season 53, which drops HBO Max November 3rd, also rock the vote, but whatever. There's like Ji-young episodes in this season 53 to come. And there was one episode where we had a bunch of Korean kids, actors. And when they saw Ji-young, they pointed at her and were like, oh, does she have monolids? And I said, oh my gosh, yes. And that was for you. And no one else would have noticed that. But that was Janet. That and many other contributions. But like, I've heard a lot that like Ji-young feels very authentically Korean-American, and it's a team effort, but a lot of it has to do with Janet. So thank you, Janet. And for all the shoving and all the, just let it be known that if ever white mainstream gives you an opportunity, there's no one better equipped to tell our own stories but us. Lastly, I just want to say that we really had no idea what the impact would be of Chi-young, and the response to her has been incredibly humbling and overwhelming, both from kids who are Asian and not. But I have to say that the most emotional reactions to Chi-young have been from Asian-American parents. Stories about their kids' eyes lighting up when Chi-young says "하나 둘 셋 넷" or talks about her 할머니. Do you guys know Angry Asian Man, Phil Yu? He told me a story about how his, at the time, 4-year-old, when she first saw Chi-young on the screen, he's like, she's Korean. And she just smiled and just like involuntarily pointed at herself because she recognized like a piece of her like on the screen on her favorite show. We have like letters from women named Chi-young who changed their names to be more American. And now they get to show Sesame Street to their kids, where a girl with a hyphenated name, Chi-young, is embraced and her name is mostly pronounced correctly, you know? And it's this validation, getting to see their children maybe grow up in a world where their Asianness is accepted and validated. It's like incredibly bittersweet, because on one side, seeing this makes us realize how absent it was in our own childhoods, and maybe makes us think about, gosh, what the impact of that was for us growing up. But the flip side of it is how wonderful it is to see that the next generation has different tools and different confidence, that whether, you know, straight or boo, 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 they can grow up to be whatever they want to be. So anywho, thank you very much for the Trailblazer Award, Korean American Story. Let's all keep telling our stories. Thank you. Okay, I'm not used to this.